now we're on to our base notes, and the first one is benzoin. This one is quite a sweet, mild, muted scent, and it's a good circulation booster. It's another one that's good for aches and pains. It's quite a calming oil. It's also good if anyone's got any digestion problems, even if it's something as simple as indigestion, it can be quite effective. This is also a diuretic, so if your client is looking to try and lose some excess water, so long as you've done your consultation and it isn't something that's medically related, it can be quite effective. It's also good for some respiratory issues, so your coughs, getting over a cold, anything like that. The caution with this one is it can be a skin sensitizer, so just be very aware. And this is quite a light yellow oil, but it's also a very thick oil, so I'm going to turn this one completely down, and you're going to see that it does take a bit of time to come out the dropper. But it's a good reason to see why you have to have patience for this, and you can't shake the bottle, because if you need 2 drops, you have to be aware that it's only 2 drops that come out, and by shaking it you could lose your precision. So you can see it's yellow and it's quite thick, this oil. Our next base note is cedarwood. This is a woody scented oil. It's quite a soft scent, it's not too strong. This one's an astringent, so if anyone's got oily skin or even oily hair, if you're doing your massage into the scalp, then it's quite effective for that. It's another calming and soothing oil, and it's also very effective for muscle easing. If someone's got a specific muscle complaint, then it can be quite effective for that. Avoid this one in pregnancy, and it's yet another oil, as you can imagine, that can cause skin irritations. So to show you how this is quite a dark yellow oil, and I would say it's a medium thickness. You can see here. Okay, next one is frankincense. This is another woody oil. It's quite warm and quite spicy. This one is quite good for anyone that's maybe got a nervous condition, maybe they're a bit stressed. It can be quite soothing for that. It's also effective on the skin if anyone does have any blemishes. If they're even healing, maybe they've had some cuts. I would say wounds, but I'd use that word carefully. You obviously don't want to massage over a fresh wound, but maybe someone has had some sort of operation that was over 6 months ago, you've had your healing time. Frankincense can be very effective when you're working on an area just to soothe the skin and promote healing. Again, always proceed with caution though. It's also good for anyone that has menstrual issues, but again, you've got to look at what the issue is and if it's suitable for that particular client, taking into account medication, things like that. It's another one that's good if someone's got coughs or colds. It can aid those respiratory issues. The caution with frankincense is to avoid in the first trimester of pregnancy. So just to check our colour and our consistency, it is quite a free flowing oil and it's a very clear oil. Our next oil is patchouli, another woody scented oil, quite sweet and spicy. This one is very good for boosting circulation. It's another one that's good for fluid retention, so it's a slight diuretic. It's also calming, soothing, and again, if someone's got oily skin, it can be quite effective on it. Also as a skin soother overall. The cautions with patchouli are that it's very strong, so use it in low concentrations. And to check our colour and our run on this, it's quite a vibrant yellow colour and it's quite a thick oil. So the next base note we're going to discuss is rose, and rose absolute is a very expensive oil, so what you'll find is that it's not rose absolute that you're buying. It can still be quite an expensive oil though, but you'll find that unless it's costing you excess of £40–50 or more, it won't be rose absolute. But rose aromatherapy oil is quite distinctive. You'll know what rose smells like. It's floral and it's sweet. Rose oil is very good for balancing various menstrual issues. Again, speak to your client about it. It's a calming oil. It's good for regulating the circulation, and it can also balance the hormones. Again, this can tie into whether it's premenstrual issues because it can balance the hormones before that. But again, it's so important that you speak to your client about their condition and whether it's effective to use for them. The cautions with rose is it's generally safe, but just be aware during pregnancy you may feel that it's best just to avoid it. Again, always speak to your client, do your full consultation. So just to check the colour and the consistency of your rose oil. Again, with the thicker oils you do have to be patient while they come through the dropper. And this is a another of your yellow toned oils, quite dark yellow, and it's quite a thick oil. Our next oil is Sandalwood. Obviously another woody oil, and it's quite a nice smoky scent to it too. It's a really nice oil that you'll find is in a lot of the bases for a lot of perfumes and a lot of aftershaves. So this one's good for stress. It's also effective on insomnia. This one's quite good for a skin that's maybe slightly out of balance, so it's quite a regulating oil. So if someone's got maybe a little bit oily or a little bit dry, it's quite good to add sandalwood to the blend and just bring it back into balance. It's another oil that's good for digestive ailments and respiratory issues. The caution is though, it is a very powerful oil, so again, use in low concentrations. And just to check the colour and the run. So this is another one of your thick oils. So again, you're just taking your time. You've got to be patient when you're blending with these thicker oils. A lot of the time when you're blending for a client, if you're clinically trained and they're waiting for you while they're on the bed and you're doing your blend, you can make sure that they're getting quite comfortable, and you can just be confirming with them what scents they like and what scents they don't like. Because if you personally think that an oil would be very nice for them in the blend, but it turns out that they prefer citrus to floral, then what you don't want to do is be spending a lot of time waiting for a thicker oil to come out just to find out that when you give your client the blend to smell, it's not for them. It's also good to point out that you should get your client to smell the blend first, because they won't enjoy the massage if it's a blend that's not to their liking. Part of the effects of aromatherapy is not only are the oils helping the systems and absorbing into the skin and into the bloodstream, but the scent within the air is also having beneficial properties too. So if the client doesn't like the scent, then you're losing quite an important part of your massage. So this is it now coming out. It's a clear oil, and you can see just how thick sandalwood is. So you might only need 2 or 3 drops in your blend, but you can see that when you're using your sandalwood, that's going to take a little bit of time. Okay, the next one is Valerian Root, and this is a very herbal, very sweet oil. This gives you a really good result in a blend if your client just needs a bit of clarity of thought. It's also quite a balancing oil if someone's just maybe feeling a little bit anxious, depressed. Again, we can't claim to fix these problems, but by coming for regular massages with specific oils in the blend, we can help people to come back into balance. But again, you've got to make sure, check for medications, check that it's not going to interact with anything. This one is also good for restlessness, for headaches and for tension. What you have to do though is just use this one in moderation, but there are no known contraindications. Just be very careful and do your research if you want to use it with a client that's got a specific condition. So to check this oil, it's a very light yellow and it's free flowing. And our last example of a base note is vanilla oil. Most of you will know what vanilla smells like. It's quite sweet, it's quite rich. It does have an earthy tone to it, the essential oil. So vanilla oil is quite relaxing. It's another oil that's effective on balancing hormones, and it also encourages calmness and promotes sleep. If you think about it, most things that have a vanilla scent are quite pleasing, quite a nice scent. So it's nice in a mix if someone just wants to relax and feel calm again. The cautions for vanilla: avoid in pregnancy, but it is generally fine. Again, it's just good to do your research, take your client as an individual and make sure that each oil will be beneficial to them. So to check the thickness and the colour of vanilla oil, again, it can vary, as you've seen in previous oils. Even though it might be a base note, they're not always generally thick. They can vary from incredibly thick to quite thin, so always be aware when you're mixing that you have to take into account what you're dealing with so that you don't put too many droplets into the blend. But what we're not going to do, particularly in these ones, is mix any clinical blends up for you, because you have to treat each client as an individual. If we did show you how to mix, we wouldn't want you to think that that's the way you do it for everyone. We must treat everyone individually. So the best advice is, if you want to do clinical aromatherapy, then research in your local area any learning providers that do this for you, and you can make sure that you're doing it absolutely properly. Anyway, you can see this is a very thick oil, incredibly thick and dark. This is probably the thickest oil that we've demonstrated. But again, you do not want to shake that bottle. You've got to be in full control of how many droplets. There you go, that is how thick vanilla oil is. It's not used very commonly in your massage blends, but it's always good to know exactly what these oils look like should you choose to mix them yourself.